one of the things I love about Super Bowls, World Cups, NBA Finals, they're pressurized situations, okay? And in pressurized situations in sports or in life, the truth comes out. Every dad's a good little league dad when his kid's winning and hitting home runs. But what about when the umpiring's terrible and he strikes out? The truth comes out. Add a little pressure to life in sports. The truth comes out. And the truth is, when I compared Luka to Carmelo Anthony, it sort of looks like it, doesn't it? A very flawed star, right? Better than Carmelo, but a very flawed star. All the deficiencies for Luka are coming out in the finals. Number one, he never stops complaining to refs. It hurts his team. He's on the floor complaining. There go the Celtics down to the other end. It happened twice last night. Another thing, he's been awful defensively in this series. Awful. In fact, there is data and video that illustrates he's maybe the worst defensive player in the finals in a decade. And like all great scorers, when fit hits the shan, he becomes ISO ball guy and doesn't play well with others. The Mavs only had 15 assists last night. They're almost getting doubled in this series in assists. So Luke is an all-time talent, but he's not a late bloomer. He was an all-time talent at 15 years old. He has been lauded. He has been worshipped. And when you're great at 15 until now at 25, he's already been a 5-time All-NBA guy, first team. That's more than Steph. Is he now amenable to change? Is he adaptable? Because to be a champion, Michael Jordan figured this out. You got to look yourself in the mirror. I mean, Michael Jordan looked himself in the mirror and said, I can score 60 and not win titles or trust my teammates. Phil Jackson talked him into trusting his teammates. Michael became a champion. LeBron James was physically elite his first day in the league. He had to eventually, the Spurs wouldn't guard him in the finals from the perimeter. He had to learn to shoot a three and add layers to his game so it just wasn't about his physical superiority. I mean, I'm watching Luka unravel last night, get flustered, melt down. You can't do that against the Celtics. Celtics are smart. Horford and Brown and Tatum and Drew Holiday. They'll get into your head. This is a veteran team, and they were toying with the younger Mavericks last night. They were toying with them. And by the way, it's completely fair. I don't care how good your regular season is. I don't care how good your playoffs are. If you melt down in the finals, it will stick with you until you win a finals. Magic Johnson had an awful finals. He was called Tragic Johnson in 1984. He had to eventually win for that to disappear. LeBron James, terrified to have the basketball against Dallas, ridiculed, mocked, laughed at until he won the next year. And this is going to stick to Luka, and it should fairly. Awful defensively. I mean, totally disengaged defensively. Constantly melting down with the officials. Not really engaging other teammates. Swept by the Celtics. That's going to stick to him. I mean, when you got 5 fouls and you're trying to draw a charge and you're a bad defensive player, like, what are you doing? This is going to stick to Luka. It should stick to Luka. Pressurized situations in sports, business, and life unveil the truth. By the way, Kyrie can score, but he wasn't very good defensively last night either. You are seeing a deep, mature, smart Boston team toy with Dallas and their emotions. The Celtics are picking on Luka. Their game plan was clearly make him work on the defensive end. He'll unravel. Force him to work on the defensive end. He will eventually quit. He'll get frustrated. He'll complain to the refs. That Boston game plan, they figured it out. It is working perfectly. Attack him, make him work. He'll turn into ISO ball guy, complain about fouls, and unravel. And that's what you're seeing. So let's talk about the Celtics. They're actually bad for the NBA's broadcasting partners. They've won 10 straight games. They're 15-2 in the playoffs. The only time you see network executives really freak out is with sweeps. The hockey series for ESPN's 2 Love, and the Celtics are flying through the playoffs. You got to get to 6 games to make money. Boston's bad for business. And they're just too deep not to win a championship, but I've said they're too historically strange to be a dynasty. I mean, they can struggle at home in the playoffs. Their number one guy in the last two series isn't their number one guy in the last two series. It's funny, in the NFL, you can win just one Super Bowl, just one, and be legends. The Legion of Boom, the 85 Bears. All you have to do is win one. You get a name. You're identified. That's not the way the NBA works. In the 70s in the NBA, the entire decade is reduced despite great players because all these teams won just a single championship. I mean, the Denver Nuggets win a championship, best player in the league, get bounced this year in the playoffs. They're like yesterday's news. They're like a startup website. Yeah, 10 years ago, that was a big deal. I mean, in basketball, all the stories, all the legends are about decades and eras. If I say 70s NBA, you're thinking Blazers and Sonics. If I say, 80s NBA, it's the Celtics and the Lakers dynasty. If I say 90s NBA, that's the Jordan era. 2000s NBA, that's the Lakers and Kobe and Shaq NBA. We talk about the NBA in decades. In the NFL, you can just win one time. I mean, Seahawks win a Super Bowl. Legion of Boom, everybody knows what it means. 85 Bears, they're still celebrating that in Chicago. Doesn't work that way in the NBA. So are these Celtics, the 80s Celtics, where they're going to be a dynasty for like 10 years? Or are they like the KG, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Rondo Celtics, where they won, but they're not league defining? Just moment in time, they crushed, they got one. You don't talk about them. We don't talk about them. What are they going to be? I think something that needs to be discussed is that the Celtics, I've always said, aggressive wins in sports. And when you combine aggressive with really smart, that's when you can get into dynasties. All right? So the Celtics did something that was very interesting. They stole Porzingis. They stole Derek White. And they stole Drew Holiday. How'd they do it? Because their general manager, Brad Stevens, a very smart guy, took advantage of three tanking teams. Portland, San Antonio, right? And Washington. And before the new CBA, clicked in, which makes it hard to do what they're doing, they took advantage of it. Now the Celtics now have 8 players who can all shoot, who can all dribble, who can all switch defensively, who can all pass. Nobody else in the league has like 5. They have 8. So they took advantage of 3 tanking teams, San Antonio, Washington, and Portland, and stole Holiday and Derek White and Porzingis and coupled them with 2 really good players, Jason Tatum and Brown. The NBA is trying to avoid what the Celtics are doing. They don't want you to have like 6 really good players. With the new CBA and the second apron, they don't want this stuff. They want you to be like Oklahoma City. Draft, develop, you stay put, you grow, your fans love you. They don't want like all-star tanking. Take that guy. You watch Boston, Dallas just doesn't have the players. They just don't match up on either end of the floor. I mean, Boston is now toying with Luka's emotions. I mean, their game plan was attack him, he'll unravel. It's to Luka. So I think Denver would have been a much better matchup. But, what I'm watching is smart plus aggressive added to a really good duo in a moment in time looks much better than the rest of the NBA. 3-0. Dallas is surprisingly favored in Game 4. I'd like to see Dallas, pick a game out of this thing because I do love their story, their GM, their coach, Luka. I like the story of Dallas, a rookie from Duke's playing well. But if Boston is an absolute, really Boston, these games have all been blowouts, if not for Dallas. Boston had a little quick dry spell in the first game in the third quarter and a little quick dry spell in the second game in the third quarter and had a really bad fourth quarter for most of it last night. They've had bad quarters, but if you took the 12 quarters so far, it does feel like 9 of them, Boston has clearly been the better team. And so I think we're going to have a champion, and going to happen pretty quickly.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.